respect, aura, legend, class act who led by example, honest, straight talker. Those are just some of the words used to describe West Ham United legend, icon, cult hero. None of those words do it justice. Billy Bonds, former captain and manager, and of course, legendary player whose death was announced Sunday morning before West Ham's defeat to Liverpool at London Stadium. If ever there was something that made football feel insignificant and results unimportant, it was the announcement that Bill had died. Absolutely devastating news, particularly to those, probably, to be fair, in the generation above mine and Jonesy's. I never had the privilege of watching him play. I was slightly too young by the time I went to my first game. He'd just left his post as manager of West Ham, but my dad, who was sort of peak Billy Bonds era, really, for lots of his career, 21 years at the club, plus all the managerial and the coaching and all the media work that he did when he was still in and around the club. For someone like my dad, he, as for my entire life, has always said by far and away Billy Bonds is his favourite West Ham United player. Just over my shoulder, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see right next to the picture of me and my dad in Eintracht Frankfurt is one of the sort of mash-up pictures of Billy Bonds, just Billy Bonds alone, because even though I never saw him play, I was left in no uncertain terms when I was growing up, as was James, with so many other people of our age and of our era, that Billy Bonds represented everything that it means to be a West Ham United player, but more than that, a West Ham United fan. He was full of grit. He was more skillful than people give him credit for. Ultra committed to fitness. Had that streak of grit and steely determination. Wasn't, as everyone knows, scared of putting in a tackle and sticking up for his teammates. Trevor Brooking will talk fondly about, how if any of the opposition players tried to kick him when he was doing his silky skills down the wing, trying to take people on, that Billy wasn't scared to put in a reducer to make sure they didn't do it to his mate Trev. Again, obviously lifted trophies with West Ham United, died age 79. And James, as devastating as it is and heartbreaking news, particularly for my dad, it was really sort of, people of that generation and people of that era alike. I didn't manage to make it to the game on Sunday, unfortunately, but spoke to him afterwards, and you could sort of tell how much it had impacted him and how much it affected him hearing that news before the game. And if anything, it seems to me, James, before we sort of talk perhaps a little bit more, about how it makes us think about modern day football and how much potentially it's changed. As devastating and sad as it was, what better way, Jones? This is the feeling I've been left with. What better way to live your life, and what a legacy! Honestly, what a mark to leave behind. Right? I don't we get too deep too early on in what is ultimately a football podcast, but I think people who've listened to us for a long time now know that we are cut from the cloth of football fans, and West Ham fans in particular, for whom football and West Ham means that little bit more. Do you know what I mean? We've lived and breathed it, and it's a bit more of our character and of who we are and the very fabric of our personality than it is for lots of people. And like I say, not sort of get too deep too early, but if ever there's a time we're going to, it's now. What more have we got really or what more are our lives than the legacy we leave behind? And I can't think of a better way to spend 79 years on the planet than spending it how Billy Bonds did, because of the legacy he's left behind. Jonesy, really sad times, but I just think what more could he have done? What better way to live your life? A humble private man, did things his own way, and he's utterly, utterly, utterly revered, not just by fans, but by every single player who's played for him or against him. every single player who's played for him and then against him and with him. All of his, Trevor Brooking. There's not many people who have godlike status among West Ham fans, particularly, like I say, of that era, generation perhaps before ours. Not many more are revered as much as Trevor Brooking, and you can even him. My dad always called Trevor Brooking God. Even he looks, you can tell, holds Billy Bonds in the utmost reverence. I saw a really nice video of the two of them this week, and you could sort of tell he was still as godlike as Trevor Brooking is, scored the winning 1980 Cup final and all the rest of the magic that he did. Still, you could kind of tell, looked up to him with a bit of reverence. I just think I do feel really emotional about it. And I didn't even see him play. I can only imagine how people like my dad and that generation feel. But what a legacy, mate! What better way to live your life?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know if I can add much more to what you just said there, if I'm honest, mate. But it is devastating, and I think it says all you need to know about the man, let alone the player that you've got. Even you've got people that didn't know him personally, or those that weren't even teammates or opposing players, people that just may have met him day to day, working in the industry or whatever, coming out with fantastic stories about the first time they met him and how he was and the type of man that he was. The fact that he touched so many lives, not just on the football pitch, but off it as well, is testament to just the type of man he was. And like you, I didn't get the chance to see him play. My dad told me all about him though, growing up, just like yours did, and like many, I'm sure many fans of similar age, their dads would have done the same thing. And there's a reason why he was voted by the fans as the club's greatest ever player. Was it in 2018? I think it was. I mean, that's some accolade alone. And then you factor in what he achieved in order to gain that recognition amongst the fan base. A club like West Ham that's had so many great players over the years, and he's number one. He is the club's greatest ever player, and he always will be the club's greatest ever player. And like you said, that is some legacy to leave behind. And I was on my way to the game on Sunday when the news broke, and immediately was like, well, I'll sit in the Billy Bonds stand. Like, it's going to be a bit weird first time going there on the day, and it's going to be the Billy Bonds stand, and obviously he's no longer here. But the send-off he got at such short notice as well, obviously, fair enough, the club couldn't really do a great deal because it literally just happened. But the fans, constant singing Billy Bonds, Clarence Blue Army. The minute's applause before the game was emotional, but at the same time, fantastic. And again, just showed the type of man, the type of player he was. So yeah, very, very emotional, very, very sad. But I think also you've got to look at it with, obviously not his passing with positivity, but his legacy with positivity, and go, how lucky were we that we can say that Billy Bonds played for West Ham United. So yeah, I think that's all I can say on the matter, mate. I think you put it perfectly right at the beginning. I've just tried to add to it as best I could.
799 games, James. And I mean, as you were saying about the greatest ever player,
we'll never be beaten, by the way. 799 games. We'll never be beaten.
Well, that's what. There's a few things I've seen. I've seen lots of really nice things on Instagram or social media. I've sort of been like, reading quite a lot of the content and coverage about it, or watching videos, whatever it might be. And a few things I don't often sort of comment in replies, but a few things I've commented on recently, and just said that what a legacy, never to be surpassed.
Yeah.
Never. No one is ever going to play 800 games for West Ham United ever. Freddie Potts, right, is realistically our best hope at the moment. He won't do that.
No, he won't.
He won't. And unless West Ham have some catastrophic decline perfectly in line with Freddie Potts' ability, and he decides he wants to still carry on playing for us age 40 when we're in the National League. Mate, Billy Bonds was central. I know he played centre-back a bit as well. Ultimately, he was a centre midfield player. It's just not going to happen ever again. And
Martin Noble to put it into context, Martin Noble, 21 years at the club, 19, 20, 550 games. Miles off it.
Yeah, he actually is.
You know what I mean?
He'd need to do half of his West Ham career again.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Mental.
Yeah, unbelievable, mate. Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, and again, as you were saying that then about the winning the club's greatest ever player as voted by fans, the best, that again, what an accolade. No higher honour to be a West Ham player or connected with the club than that. Bobby Moore played for West Ham, for goodness. Jeff Hurst played for West Ham. Martin Peters. All of the modern day players. Paolo Di Canio, obviously Mark Noble. You've mentioned there, perhaps ability wise, not quite to the levels. Honestly, James, it's, you know what's funny? What's really interesting as well is that because he was such a humble, quiet, private man. He lived down in Devon, I believe, or certainly did for a long part of his retirement. That's so rare these days, isn't it? And even, you know, we're sort of privileged in a way. Lots of ex-West Ham players. We've had lots of them on the podcast historically. Lots of footballers these days, particularly of that era, right, when they didn't earn the sums that footballers of today earn. The footballers of today have kind of got the choice now, most of them, not all of them, I know, but have kind of got the choice whether they want to carry on talking and do media work and all that. They're not sort of forced into it by finances. I mean, everyone's heard the stories of Bobby Moore after his career, sort of doing lots of the media work. Obviously, he loved the club. But some of the stories are actually quite sad. Jonathan Pearce, who, if you haven't already watched it, search Jonathan Pearce, Billy Bonds on social media and find the video of him talking about Billy Bonds and how he went to Jonathan Pearce's wedding and some of the words that were exchanged between them. Really touching, really moving. Jonathan Pearce, one of the greatest broadcasters of all time, of course. He talks about Bobby Moore and work with him, and it was a bit more of a financial situation in those days, right? Or finances were certainly more of an element of it for Bobby Moore and England's only ever World Cup winning captain, West Ham icon, West Ham legend. Obviously treated poorly after his career, as everyone knows. I think so for Billy Bonds he effectively just sort of disappeared, didn't he? To all intents and purposes. I know he came out for the unveiling of the ground, which was absolutely brilliant, but you know, the sort of commonly held belief is that days like that, as moving and touching as it was for him, as quite a shy man or a man who doesn't sort of seek the limelight, it wasn't necessarily something he was sort of jumping up and down, chomping at the bit to do. I just find it all a bit surreal, really unbelievable, James, to sort of think that, I'm sure as all of us are sort of flawed in certain ways, but lived a pretty unfallible life. He was ultra dedicated to his cause. One of the best trainers at the club, or if not the best, the entirety of his career. Obviously, common misconceptions that he was an academy boy, signed from Charlton, of course. I just find it all quite. I don't know. It's a strange, I think, James, because he was sort of lived away from the limelight post football. He wasn't out there in the media all the time giving his views. Even now, I couldn't tell you really, on the whole, what Billy Bonds thought about West Ham at any point since he retired. I know the situation with Harry Redknapp was somewhat unsavoury. And perhaps that sort of was part of his thinking of why he didn't, why he sort of shied away from the limelight. I feel like no, and it's probably more part of his character from what you hear, see, and read. I just find it really interesting, James, for a man. But I suppose the two things go hand in hand. For a man who achieved so much and is so beloved by West Ham fans of the many generations, I feel like I knew him. I feel like I'd watched him play. I feel like, connected to him and was sad by the news. A man who I've never met, maybe seen in the flesh and been in the same room as a couple of times. but you feel like you know him and all that, and to sort of shy away from the limelight as he did, it was kind of almost strange because you didn't necessarily think or hear from him all the time. So when you hear that he's died and he's gone, not much will change, but at the same time, so much will.
Yeah, I think all of that just kind of points back to what we said before about just speaks to the type of guy that he was. You know, he's not interested in all of that. You know, all he wanted to do was play football. That's all he was ever interested in doing, and he did that amazingly throughout his entire career, and got all the accolades that he got. Won what he won for West Ham, and then obviously he was a good manager as well. He was a really good football manager. So yeah, it says a lot about who he was as a guy, but at the same time, I see what you mean. Kind of, it's like, well, what now, sort of thing. It's like,
I wish we had heard more from him.
Yeah, and particularly these days, you penny for his thoughts now. You know, funny enough, one of my mates did say after the Paqueta situation, it's Liverpool going, I wonder what Billy Bonds would have thought about that.
Well, we'll go on to that in a minute, James. Not just Paqueta, but generally what it says about modern players. Yeah,
but yeah, so I don't know. I don't really know what else to add, mate. It's just sad. We've lost another legend, and for me, we've lost the ultimate West Ham United legend. So yeah, it's very, very sad indeed.
Absolutely. One thing we will talk, by the way, everyone, about the Liverpool defeat. Of course, we'll do that next, but nowhere near as important as this issue at such a sad time for everyone connected to the club. Really. One thing, James, I did an interview earlier today for the Brighton programme, just obviously chatting about the game, and the guy doing it, Luke, very nice bloke at the Brighton programme, had to explain that I do hate Brighton, but in a sort of friendly fashion. It's not their fault, basically. All they did was just be good at football against us for a decade. But he asked me about Billy Bonds, and it was a bit. He said along the lines of, "Oh, what can players these days take from him?" And it really made me think. It really made me sad, and I was just like,
everything.
Yeah. And the reality of it is nothing. And I think in a weird way, Billy Bonds dying has sort of brought into even sharper focus. Not that West Ham fans generally don't have this at the forefront of their minds, but it just brings into the clearest of focus how much football's changed and how different it is. And as much as West Ham fans, I think we're of that generation because we had season tickets at Upton Park and stuff, where what we would like the football club to represent and what we'd like the players of the football club to represent, largely, it just doesn't anymore. And the players, I don't think you can give the players too much grief for that, really, because on the whole, I just think the game has changed. The top flight football has changed so much that it's hard to really point a finger and go, it's the players. For the players should be more like Billy Bonds. It's like, well, it's not like that anymore. Billy Bonds was also a product of his time. Lots and lots of players at that in that era played for clubs for long periods of time. Players moved around less. It's just it's a different sport and a different environment around it these days. But do you know what I mean? I just sort of, if anything, it brought into even sharper focus that I think, just what we do now, the ground we go to, so much of the history. I've been at a few different grounds this week, been up to Birmingham, been to Wrexham last week, speaking to some proper football fans, not in the Forest the week before for work, speaking to proper football fans, going to some proper grounds, watching football. And so much of the stuff we value, particularly as West Ham fans, that grit and determination, hard work, soul, representing what it means to play for the club. That question I got asked earlier, Billy Bonds dying, I think, just brings into razor sharp focus how different football is these days. And if you had to think about it now, right, the closest we've got to Billy Bonds at the moment is Thomas Souček, hands down.
Yeah.
And even Mark Noble, I know everyone likes the Mr. West Ham line, and he was great and he was brilliant. I still maintain this, and people don't like to hear it, and it takes the allure off it a bit. Mark Noble, to be fair, was only ever as good as West Ham, and West Ham were only ever about as good as Mark Noble. Like, he was never Declan Rice good, where it was like Arsenal and Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, whoever was good at the time was snapping at his heels. If he was, they would have been. And he was never kind of that bad to be like, this bloke's Championship. Do you know what I mean? I know he stayed when we went down, and there are periods, no doubt, where you tip your hat to Mark Noble. And I know he had offers from elsewhere, but you're talking like 10, 15 grand a week extra, which, again, to us laymen's is amazing. But when you're at the level he was at of earning 65, 70 grand a week, for example, you know, as a percentage, it's not massive. So I'm always quick to go, yeah, it was great he stayed. But again, it was only if West Ham had been particularly bad or he'd been particularly good. Like, if we stayed in the Championship another season, he probably gets moved back to the Prem. If, you know, he was Declan Rice good, he probably goes. So I sort of, that I don't buy into that quite as much, but ultimately he just wasn't as successful. Billy Bonds was a better player by all accounts over a much longer period.
Yeah, well, I signed off my BBC column this week with, you know, football doesn't make players like Billy Bonds anymore. I think that's pretty much what you're saying. You do get the odd one, like you said. Thomas Souček is the closest we've got right now. You know, there have been players over the years that have embodied very similar attributes in terms of just immediately getting what it means to play for West Ham United. Soufal is another one, recently left, and he's recently been quite vocal about how much he was gutted that he was told he wasn't going to stay. You know, there's several players over the years, but given the state of the modern game, that I just don't hang about for as long as Billy Bonds had the opportunity to hang about at West Ham. You know, you just look at someone like Paulo Di Canio, for example. Get relegated, he's off.
Yeah.
You know, if we'd have stayed up, he probably would have signed a new contract.
Oh, definitely.
In 2003. But we go down, and you know, he's like, well, the club's like, well, we can't offer him a new deal.
I think it was the club more so, wasn't it? I think he was keen, or he'll certainly tell the story that he was quite keen to stay.
Yeah, but you know, like, and that was what, over 20 years ago, and even then, players weren't hanging around for that long. So the old saying, the game's gone, it definitely has. It certainly brings it into perspective, doesn't it? That it's not what it used to be in terms of the longevity of players at one club.
Yeah. All right. Listen, Jonesy, really sad day for the club, for us too as well, certainly for all those fans of the generation above. For whom Billy Bonds does and always will represent everything that it means to support and play for and represent West Ham United, or certainly everything that it should mean to support, play for and represent West Ham United. Billy Bonds, 799 games, absolute legend. Rest in peace. Right then, Jonesy, West Ham United 0, Liverpool 2. Alexander Isak, obviously he hadn't scored a Premier League goal for Liverpool. Obviously he got it against West Ham. Obviously Liverpool couldn't buy a win beforehand, and everyone was predicting him to go down and Arne Slot to get sacked any minute now. Obviously they come to London Stadium and get 3 points and get themselves back on track, and a little bit of a boost that the club all needs. Obviously West Ham United, their 3-game unbeaten run, were not going to get anything off of Liverpool at the London Stadium on Sunday. Spoke to Henry in the week before. He did the usual thing of the opposition fans, where they don't want to be too disrespectful. They say he's not very good. But I told that the Liverpool aren't very good at the moment, etc., etc. We ran through all the reasons why they're a bit weak this season and blah, blah, blah. Then we did the bit at the end when we chatted about the game, and where we go, all right, yeah, that's all very well. Anyway, West Ham are going to lose, aren't they? Yeah, they are. Yeah, right. Sure enough, that's exactly what happened. I couldn't make the game, unfortunately, as I've already said. Watch it on the TV, of course. You were there, Jonesy. I've sort of done quite a lot of talking for the first section. Bouter, your experience, wisdom. Talk to me about it. What was obviously the mood? Somewhat more highly charged before the game. Didn't quite reflect the sort of emotional, highly charged atmosphere. It seemed to me.
No, it didn't.
We will talk about Lucas Paqueta, everyone, by the way. Do not worry, so stay tuned.
Yeah, it didn't really. It was, I said to my mate walking out the ground after that, the difference over the course of that 90 minutes is that Liverpool have got finishers and we don't. I thought Liverpool were poor. We had spells where we were okay and far better than we have been this season. But our lack of creativity and anything in the final third meant that we had another game this season without a shot on target against a team that can't buy a win. For me, that's criminal. Should have been putting them under pressure, should have been on them straight away, putting them under a lot of pressure, forced mistakes in them. They dropped Mohamed Salah. Let's go at them. And we just didn't do that. And it took us a while to build into it. We did have a few decent little spells, but overall it was always going to come down to, okay, well, who's going to have a shot on target? And you just know that if it's Liverpool, then they're probably going to score one because they're Liverpool. We've only got probably... You only really look at Jared Bowen in that team and go, he's a finisher, like a natural finisher. They've got 8 natural finishers in their starting 11. And it's like, well,
I suppose Callum Wilson would probably
argue. Yeah, okay, Callum Wilson, yeah. 1.5 then. But then, Callum Wilson can't finish if you don't give him anything in the box, and he just got nothing. Whereas with Bowen, sometimes he might create something out of nothing. He's done that so many times, but he just didn't even do that. So yeah, it basically Liverpool weren't great, but they've just got finishers, and that's why they won the game for me. I think 2-0 sounds crazy to say it, but 2-0, I felt flat at them a little bit, especially given the goals came. Quite well, especially the second one late.
We opened up for the second one, eh?
Yeah, but I think what you said a moment ago, like the result kind of wasn't a surprise. I kind of went there going, I wouldn't be surprised if we did win this because of the form of both teams. And, there's a little bit more about this game now after the news that we've heard in the morning. There's a little bit more, perhaps a reason for the players to rock up and put in a performance. But at the same time, let's not kid ourselves. These are the games that we get rolled over in, regardless of the form of the other team. And although we get rolled over, the 2-0 defeat wasn't a surprise at all. And you can't, although it flatters them, at the same time, you can't complain when you don't have a shot on target. You don't create much. So, yeah, we move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Which isn't much easier.
Oh God, James, I don't know. Honestly, I just stopped myself there, right? Everyone at home listening or watching, whatever. I just stopped myself then because I was like, right, I'm just going to launch into a thing. And I've said it before. I know people come back because they like familiarity, and we're really glad that you do. And sign up at patreon.com/WeAreWestHam if you podcast if you really like it, and you fancy paying a few quid a month to support me and James, and ultimately to keep us doing this to ourselves on the weekly. I was just going to launch into the thing again about what I hate about modern football. One of the many things I hate about modern football, James, is that there are, as I've said before, there are just games now because the gulf between the teams at the top and the teams everyone else is so vast. There are games in a season now where you just write off, where I wouldn't necessarily have done that when we were growing up. And this Sunday was one of them. If I'm honest, it was a sort of I actually couldn't go. I had something important I had to do instead. But even as I'm sort of weighing it up, I was like, well, we'll lose. Like, even as much Liverpool in poor form, there's none of me that was like, oh, we'll get anything out of this. And I was just going to start all that again, basically. But everyone's heard it before. And there's probably some new listeners who maybe haven't. Basically, long story short, in a nutshell, it annoys me that there are so many games in a Premier League season these days. I would argue this season, probably it's between 6 and 8 games, which are as good as write-offs. And that's Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, home and away. I mean, I know we're going to Old Trafford on Thursday. Even then, but I don't write that one off as much, or at least look forward to it. There's enough games that you just sort of write off because the gulf's so huge, which annoys me. I think it's rubbish about football. So that's what I was going to say. There you go. It's done. Anything else to add, James, on the actual Liverpool game, or should we just do Paqueta now?
Well, just before we move on to Paqueta, I don't think this one was a write off. I genuinely don't.
No, but it was though, because
because you look at it going, well, the form that Liverpool are in.
James, you only said that because you were able to kid yourself into thinking we would win before,
if you look at the form that we're in, we'd scored 8 goals in those 3 games that we're unbeaten in. Like so finally we've started scoring goals. 6 of those have come at home, and you look at it going that they're shipping a lot of goals at the moment. Liverpool, well, they've conceded 10 in their last 3. There is a chance here that we can get a result here. It wasn't completely like, well, this is ridiculous. Like, it wasn't like when we used to rock up and play Man City. We just knew it was going to be 5 or 6-0 before a ball was kicked, and it would end up being 5 or 6-0 as well. This game against Liverpool was so like the feeding about for me was so much more different in that if we can get on them early, we can damage them. And the problem is that we just didn't, and it ended up being that we just didn't even try. We had good spells of possession, but that was about it. I don't even remember us, apart from the bumming chance at the end, really challenging them, which breaks my heart.
Lucas Paqueta, then. I'll be honest, mate. I was done ages ago. Not as good as he's hyped up to be. If he wasn't Brazilian, everyone would have tossed him off ages ago.
Steady on.
nothing against Brazilians.
It's a family-friendly podcast, this, Will. Jesus. Wow. That took a turn, didn't it?
Yeah, and I'm fuming that no one has.
Maybe that's what he needs.
Oh, dear. Yeah, well, I don't know what he needs, really. He needs to leave, ultimately. And, James, we always say I'm exclusive for you, I suppose. On the lines of the Nuno Espirito Santo, Graham Potter being sacked story that we broke earlier on this year, the Villa move, as I'm led to believe, it was as good as done, which I hadn't actually heard for January, right? I know he did the post. The Villa move was on in the summer, fell through late. Then he did the post saying, I'm going to stay for one more season. Turns out he missed out a half, and that the Villa deal for January was as good as done. But that after the weekend, senior members of staff at Villa are going, are we sure? Are we sure about this?
So he's blown it.
That's all I'm hearing at the moment. I don't know if it's definitely off, but it was as good as done before this weekend. And now Villa staff are asking themselves a question, getting a bit of cold feet. Obviously, he'll miss the next game. And then he'll be back. So he's sort of got all of December to back his act up a bit.
Well, the next game after United is Villa.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Brighton, I think, first, isn't it?
No, it's Brighton after access interview I did today. Yeah, sorry. Man United away, Brighton away, then Villa at home on the 14th of December. So that's his next home game. I've had enough, James. Honestly, I've had for a while, to be fair. I wasn't overly thrilled when he was, let's stay for another season. It's like nice. And I was like, yeah, fair enough. You owe us. But what he owed us wasn't just another season. He owed us a season and getting back to the Paqueta that we had seen earlier in his West Ham career before we were all giving him a pass because of the betting cloud hanging over him last season. I know he's come out afterwards and said, the FA are to blame and no one was safeguarding him during the investigation, etc., etc. West Ham are now offering psychological support, according to Jason Steinberg from The Guardian, but the senior sources of the club are still extremely unhappy with his petulance and him getting sent off in the manner that he did on Sunday. It just felt to me like deflection, ultimately. Like, I've no doubt it was a traumatic time for him, but it's done now. It's done now, and who am I to say whether or not the whole situation's still hanging over him? It just felt a bit disingenuous, that, honestly, and watching him do it, we still had half a chance in the game at the time. The game was still on. He's like he's getting 145 grand a week from the club. He's one of our highest earners, alongside Jared, excuse me, I think now. It's not good enough. He hasn't been good enough for a long, long time. Getting sent off in that fashion, pathetic. He's totally right. The foul was soft. It was a soft free kick, which, yeah, is annoying. But you see hundreds of those given in the Premier League every weekend. And then the first yellow card, also really harsh, because he was obviously annoyed. It was a soft thing. It's a little tiny show of petulant. He's thrown his arm up. Very harsh. Then you just shut up, though. You just shut up. You mutter under your breath. You swear at yourself or at the floor or whatever, but you walk away and you get on with the game. If you're a professional footballer getting paid 145 grand a week to be one of West Ham's talisman, when you have hardly done anything for the best part of a year and a half, probably a bit more than that. Not good enough. Don't care if he goes in January, get rid.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think, regardless of whether you're nobody in a car or not, you have to show an element of control.
Yeah. That's part of your wages, professionalism.
It's not just that, you're an adult. Like, you just got to control yourself.
You're an adult, yeah.
That said, good. My mate actually said to me, he was like, I wonder what his missus is thinking watching him like throw his toys out the pram. Like she must be like, come on, Lucas.
There's no nobility in that, is there?
Yeah, like it's not impressive.
He was shafted by the referee. Oh, the whole world's against me. No, it isn't, mate. Grow up.
Anyway, all of that said and done, completely agree with everything you said there. And I do feel like his post, while he may have a point about the lack of safeguarding, and that is a concern, it is no excuse for his behaviour at the weekend. At the same time, while it was going on, and you could 2 minutes before he pulled out that red card, you could see it going that way. You knew exactly what was about to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm going, Bowen's got to pull him aside.
Totally agree.
Bowen's got to drag him away. What's he doing?
Next,
and Bowen's just standing next to him, watching it. And he's talking to the referee as well. And I'm saying, get him away from there.
Yeah.
Literally, even if you have to drag him across the floor, drag him away from the referee now, because he's going to get another yellow card. And Bowen just didn't. Bowen did come out after and go, I probably should have done better in that situation. But I was trying to find out what the yellow card was for. And I'm like, okay, well, at least he's kind of acknowledged that he probably didn't do enough as captain to prevent that from happening.
Or he's got to tell someone else to get rid of him. Like, say, pull someone else over. If you're talking to the ref as a captain, the only one who can, get someone else over. Shout someone, move him away, take him away, and take control of the situation. Totally.
You have to go, right, okay, even if you want to find out what the yellow card was for, you need an explanation. Pull him away first if you have to. And then when the game stops next, just have a little word with the ref and go, what was that for, ref? Just out of interest. But Paqueta needed to be pulled away and calmed down. And ideally pulled away and then subbed off. That was what
5 minutes to go. Or just don't get another yellow.
Well, obviously, but you have to stop him. He's in that moment. He's lost control. He's completely lost it. He's saying stuff at the referee that you clearly shouldn't be saying. Got to pull him away. Get him away from the vicinity of the referee, and then you deal with it. Then you maybe, if you're Bowen, you maybe look at Nuno on the sidelines and go, he's got to go because he's going to get red or something like that. Just
get on with the game.
Manage the situation. As captain of the football club, you want to see your captain do that, and he didn't do that, and I thought it was really disappointing. That doesn't excuse Paqueta's behaviour, and Paqueta should have had the wherewithal and the self-control to not allow himself to get that upset and that emotional about it.
That's the primary problem, isn't it?
Yes.
Paqueta primary, then Bowen.
He lost his head, but Bowen should have acknowledged it. And to be fair, there's only one player in that entire squad that loses his head. in those situations, and that's Paqueta. None of our other players do any of that. So Bowen should have known, oh God, he's off again. He's picked up 40 yellow cards since he signed for us. Like he gets a yellow card almost every week. I need to stop him. I need to stop him. He needs to show a little bit of leadership and a little bit of responsibility there as captain. He didn't do it. And it was so frustrating to watch in real time. Just going, what? No, please do it. And then the red card comes out and it's like...
Well, yeah, exactly. All of them, you sort of almost go, well, you deserved it. Paqueta definitely deserved it, idiot. But then, Bowen as well. It does sort of nod, James, doesn't it, and speak to the, not criticism. I don't know if it's, criticism might be harsh because I think it's just his character and who else were you going to pick about Jared Bowen. Some people say he's not captain material. He's a lead by example captain, a la Martin Odegaard, rather than a, blood and thunder captain, which is fine. But you are still captain. Those are situations you are still responsible for. Whether it comes naturally to you or not, do it. Like that's what you're there for.
The referee is looking at the captains to control the teammates.
Yeah.
So the referee probably would have been saying to Joe Bowen, control your man, control him. He's not doing it.
No. I mean, but yeah, again, just to be clear, Paqueta, the primary idiot.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
I'm not saying Jared Bowen's an idiot. He's obviously not. But yeah, that is just one of those things where it's like, all right, yeah. And look, I was interested to see, you mentioned Sufo earlier, right? His comments. And he's saying how much the club misses Declan Rice and Mark Noble and, because they were real proper sort of like characters, leaders, all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure it wasn't. Well, it's not that it was a dig, but it's hard not to sort of read between the lines. It's an indirect, thinly veiled sort of dig at Bowen, even if he obviously wouldn't have meant it like that. But if you're going, the club really lacks characters like that now, well, it's like, well, you're sort of digging the captain out of the way, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? Because it's maybe because the captain isn't one of those people, is he? That's the thing. He was the only choice, really, because he was the only one who was pretty much guaranteed to actually play every week and was leading by example. But yeah, very disappointing. Good riddance to Paqueta, as far as I'm concerned, in January.
Yeah, like I can't see a future for him at the club now. I think that would have been the last straw for a lot of people inside the club.
Yeah.
And I think obviously when Nuno arrived, he would have been brought up to speed with the situation. And he's probably now thinking, right, okay, we'll put him up for sale in. Let's get rid of him. And obviously, like you just said, maybe that's already happened. But I don't know. If he's going to do that every week, he's not offering us anything. So there's no point in being there, is it?
But he's not really offering us anything anyway.
There are times when he pop up with a goal. He's still, I think he's our leading scorer this season, crazy enough.
Surely Super Thomas Suchek, isn't it?
No, I think it could be.
I mean, again, James, this is low bar of all low bars.
But this is the thing, though. It's like he's offering us nothing, but without him this season, we'd be far worse off. You know what I mean? And that doesn't say a lot about the performances this season, to be fair. But
no.
Yeah, I don't see a future for him at the club. And yeah, if he goes in January, I think it would be a shame that he failed to live up to his overall
Sorry
ability.
to interrupt you. Big Callum is our top scorer. Anyway, go on. Shame. Yeah, carry on.
I think it'd be a shame when he does leave that he failed to live up to his clear ability and allowed the behaviour and his petulance to kind of overshadow that. But, if you look I'm just looking at his recent games now. I mean, what are we talking about? How many games ago was that? That was, so in his last 6 games, he's picked up 6 yellow cards and a red card.
Yeah, stupid, isn't it? Mate, it's the same thing as Kudus last season, right? Where these players are, and I think so many fans, West Ham fans, but fans of other clubs more so. But it's more annoying when West Ham fans do it because you're watching it every week, like you should know. But these players should be held to the standards that of their returns, not how good you think they are or how good you think they could be or their potential or anything like that. Paqueta's 28. He plays for Brazil. He should be in the prime of his footballing career right now. And funnily enough, it's sort of, and it's same with Kudus. Honestly, last season, don't care. And look, nothing's that special happening at Tottenham, is it? He's not doing anything that good at Spurs. And same with Paqueta as well. I just think fans want these players because there are those like glamour signings, right? They cost a few more quid. Paqueta's Brazilian, plays for Brazil. Kudus as well, comes from Ajax. You know, he's good at dribbling, scored that one goal against Freiburg. Ultimately, sorry, give me a Jared Bowen or a Thomas Souček any day of the week. Yeah. Why? Because they're putting the ball in the net. They're putting the ball in the net and creating chances for their teams, whatever. Like, these two players, the money Paqueta's earning as well, it's not, these stats aren't good enough. Like, never mind the petulance. If you were putting the ball in the back of there, you'd live with it, wouldn't you?
I'm just looking at it now. 133 appearances, 22 goals, 14 assists. Now, a player of like Paqueta, you're looking at him mostly to create rather than score, right? So you're probably looking at him going, have more assists than goals.
Yep.
He doesn't. His last assist
this season, yeah.
He didn't get a single one last season either. His last assist for the club, right? This is crazy. Yeah. Was March 2024, so that's 18 months ago. Away at Newcastle, we remember we lost that game 4-3 right at the death.
Yeah.
That is, how many games ago was that? That is almost 60 games away.
Yeah.
So he's gone almost over an entire season without creating a single goal.
Yeah. Look, I'm totally not good enough. I get it last season, right? And I think, you know, he's been cleared of the charges that were brought against him. The FA ultimately, their primary, obviously safeguarding is important, and they have to take that into account. Their primary sort of purpose in all the stuff last season is to establish whether a Premier League player is involved in any betting irregularity. Like, sorry, but ultimately that is more important. That's the foundation of the game is affected if that sort of stuff's going on. So that's got to be their priority, to investigate that. He's been cleared of all charges since. And most West Ham fans, I think, have given him the pass for last season. You know, but like, crack on then. If you're going to release a statement and say, you know, I want to pay you back and all that, fine. Go on then. Yeah, and even, you know, the assist thing's absolutely ridiculous.
Last stat on this quickly, because I'm just looking at it now. So combined goals and assists is 36, right? He's had 38 yellow cards. He's got more yellow cards in 3.5 seasons than goals and assists combined.
Yeah. I mean, again,
no wonder he was investigated, by the way. That's ridiculous.
I'll look back more fondly on Vladimir Coufal, on Emerson, on Thomas Souček, on Craig Dawson, on Jared Bowen, on Michail Antonio, on all of these players, Fabianski, Cresswell. You know, I'll look back on all of these players, even Diafra, you know, Lanzini, Payet, all of them, way more than Mohamed Kudus and Lucas Paqueta. They were supposed to be our modern day Lanzini and Payet. You know, your new Bowen.
They were the marquee signings, weren't they?
Exactly. Yeah. They were supposed to be those players, and they're not. And funnily enough, the Paqueta thing does remind me of Lanzini, right? I think Lanzini on the verge of going to Liverpool, gets injured with Argentina, never the same player again for us or for Liverpool. And it obviously, and it's weird in that you're sort of glad he stayed in a way, but also you're like, oh, well, actually, we haven't got the player before.
Same
like,
player,
yeah. So you were never, in a way, I suppose, you were never going to get the same Lanzini, because if you got that Lanzini again, he leaves. Fact. So we only end up keeping him because he's not quite as good as he was before he got injured. And it's sort of the same, I think, with Paqueta, with his move to City and the betting thing. The only difference is with the betting thing, Lanzini was not quite the same player because of a physical reason, because of the injury. Paqueta, are you sort of hoping that once he puts the betting thing behind him, physically he'll be the same? Obviously, he's clearly struggled with it mentally at the time, and obviously it appears he's sort of saying that he still is. Who am I to say? Who am I to say whether that's accurate or not, or whether be used for any other sort of malicious purposes? But yeah, I just think maybe it's the same thing where we were never going to get that Lucas Paqueta again at West Ham, because he was either going to leave or something was going to happen which impacted his performance, and it's the latter. Sadly, I think we sort of let ourselves believe that this season he might do that, get back to his old self, earn himself a big move, final farewell, lovely. Not worked out like that at all. Not bothered if he leaves.
Agreed.
Any more, James? That's a decent little chunk, I think. Yeah, and again, sort of to book it. Could we bookend this podcast with sort of two polar opposite ends of the scale of what it is to support, play for, and represent West Ham United? Billy Bonds to Lucas Paqueta. Yeah, obviously, just talent isn't quite enough. It's all the other stuff that comes with it. There's as if not more important, to be quite honest. I think players like Mark Noble, lots of players we've had over the years at West Ham, not always the most naturally talented, but it's the other stuff they put in that has set them apart and means they're held in such high esteem by West Ham fans. Billy Bonds couldn't exemplify that more. Lucas Paqueta couldn't exemplify it less. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Follow us on socials, obviously. We Are West Ham Pod on Insta, at @WeAre_West Ham on Twitter. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, please. Just search We Are West Ham Podcast on YouTube and we will pop up. That'd be very nice indeed. Also, subscribe to the Patreon if you fancy it as well. If nothing else, right? I know I'll do the pitch a little bit different each week. Me and James, for the best part of, I think, 6 years, maybe 7. Can't actually remember, Jonesy. It's 7 years, right? Have been talking to each other at least once a week, often twice. Well, we do the opposition view as well, so I always do 2 podcasts a week to talk about West Ham. We are rubbish. We're sort of back to being rubbish again. We had a lovely little enjoyable spell in the middle under David Moyes. We had European games to talk about, winning games in the Prem, happy days. And we're still doing it. 7 years it's been. So if you're grateful of that, chip in a couple of quid if you fancy it. We are patreon.com/We Are West Ham Podcast, because I'll be honest, it's painful. For the last 18 months, it has been painful. But me and James still log on every week. We still chat to each other about it. And it appears, judging by lots of the comments and the feedback and the subscriber and the listener numbers and the Patreon numbers, etc., that you lot appear to like it as well. So if you're not already, consider joining, subscribing on patreon.com/We Are West Ham Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to all the other podcast channels. This episode, for whatever it means, is of course dedicated for Super Billy Bonds. Died age 79 at the weekend. 799 games for West Ham, lifted trophies, revered by all of those he came across, either as teammates who played for him and in oftentimes opponents as well, even the ones that he sort of split in half. He did in a gentlemanly fashion by all accounts. So Super Billy Bonds, rest in peace. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll speak to you later on.